Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years, and today I have my special guest. She's the author of the book Trusted to Thrive, no other than Miss Mary Claire Rose. Welcome to Book 101, Miss Marie Claire, and can you please introduce more about yourself?
Thank you, Daniel. I am a leadership coach and I help leaders build trust in their teams, whether it's executive leaders or even new leaders. And I do keynotes on trust and leadership. I have a 12-month leadership development program called Tribe of Trusted Leaders. And I also write a lot about leadership on my blog and in magazines, and of course in my book, Trusted to Thrive.
Yes. So, Miss Mary Claire Rose, thank you so much for sharing your talents to the world. So, yes, yes. We have a lot of crowds.
Brilliant.
Yes, they're so lively. So, Miss Claire, in your is this your latest book or debut book?
It's my latest book and it's my second book. I wrote another one, Transform Your Safety Communication.
Okay, that'd be awesome. Trusted to thrive. How does uh the foundation to team of success in Trusted to Thrive?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I unpack in the book is the integrated trust building system. And so what's really interesting, if we look at the research and the neuroscience, there are actually three things that our brain needs to feel trust in a situation. And it's to do, and these are the three things that leaders need to focus on to really help their employees, contribute at their highest level. And so the three things are fostering safety, building connection, and stepping into a meaningful future. So in the book, I unpack those three things, how they work together, how they intersect, what leaders need to do, and really provide quite an easy to follow playbook for leaders to lead in this really uncertain time, particularly also, with hybrid workforces and with a lot of change. And so these techniques are really developed to help people feel more secure and trust the situation, even when things are changing all around them.
So, Miss Mary Claire, how can leaders establish trust within their teams, especially in remote or hybrid work environments?
Yeah, well, one of the most important things to understand is that as human beings, we are wired to constantly be scanning the environment that we're in to make sure that we're safe. And so we are really doing what we can to reduce interpersonal risk. That's what it's called. So interpersonal risk is making sure, making sure that we're not going to get into trouble or someone's going to kick us out of our job because we've done or said the wrong thing. And so as human beings, without even realizing it, we're actually scanning the environment every millisecond, and we're asking questions such as, is it safe to be myself? Do these people like me? Do I like this work? Do I have a future with this team? And so it's very important for leaders to understand that people have these fears. You see them very much when you have a new starter. Daniel, when you started a new job, how did you feel safe in that job? Or, how long do you think it took you to actually feel safe around the people you were working with?
Probably 1 year.
Yeah, it can take a
Yeah.
long time.
Yes,
Yeah, it can be
definitely.
quite frightening when you start a new job. And of course, new people who've never worked before, the Gen Z that are coming in, they're quite scared. And that's totally normal. And so, as leaders, what we want to do is we want to create an environment where we really take the time to understand the people in our team and create that thriving team culture that works for everyone. And, to be honest, it takes time. We have to really work with people to create that team culture. But when we focus on the team culture, it doesn't matter where we work or how often we see each other, but when we really focus on creating a really wonderful team culture, it's almost magical, the results that we can achieve.
What are the key characteristics of a connected team and as described in Trusted to Thrive?
That's a really good question. I did a lot of research on connection and that sense of belonging, because as human beings, we really need to feel connected to each other. We're not going to thrive in a team if we don't feel people want us there. So that sense of belonging, really important for our well-being. There's some really great research that shows, when people feel that sense of belonging, they're more likely to stay in the organization, have better well-being outcomes, and all those lovely things that we love as human beings. But what I found in my research, because I did quite a lot of research within organizations, is that connection has another meaning. So we need to be connected to the people, but we also need to feel connected to the work we are doing. And by that, what I mean is, if you imagine, being a leader is really like helping people see the vision of the jigsaw and how they are, how their individual piece connects to everything else around them. So, we often, when we start a job, we sort of think the work is about us, but we really need to understand how all the pieces, parts, projects, priorities, products all fit together and how they're all interrelated. So a leader's job is in some ways to help people understand how their work makes a difference to others, the meaningfulness of work. And it's really about connecting people to what's important to them, to what's important for everyone else. So that means helping people understand how their work benefits others. And what I found is that it's quite a few layers. It's, how the work helps you, the leader, how the work helps them, the individual, how the work helps their team members, how the work helps the team overall, how the work helps other teams, how the work helps customers. The list goes on, but the more we can help people understand that, the better they feel, the more engaged they are, and the more likely they are to work at a higher level. Meaningfulness as human beings is so important. We often don't get the meaning of the work we're doing when we're doing it. When something's really hard,
Yes.
and you do it, and it might be months later, you go, hang on a minute, I learnt this or I achieved this, but gosh, at the time it was really difficult. So, a leader really needs to help people see the meaning of the work, connect those dots, because we don't often do that on our own.
Very well said, Miss Mary Claire. Very well said. So, how does accountability contribute to a thriving workplace culture?
Yeah, accountability is really, really, really critical. And in the model, it is in one of the intersections between safety and stepping into a meaningful future. So accountability is really interesting because it's two-way. So of course, leaders, when they're complaining about people aren't being accountable, they also have to look at themselves. This is the beautiful thing about trust. Trust is very two-way. And all these things are shared, but we often think about these sorts of things as being that person's not doing this, or I can't trust that person, but we don't look within ourselves. So with accountability, leaders need to model it. They also need to have the right systems in place. So, it really comes down to, really good communication and delegation, being able to communicate clear expectations, clear directives, really having a two-way dialogue with people to really help them, understand what needs to be done, but get their perspective on how they want to do it, get them to reiterate what they think your expectations for them are in terms of high quality work, what success looks like, even what bad looks like. It's very much about, we don't trust people if they don't deliver. So, accountability is so crucial to trust. And it's one of the things leaders need to work on. And oftentimes, I work with a lot of leaders who have troubles with having a difficult conversation. They don't want to feel uncomfortable. They don't want to hurt people's feelings. They're worried that, if they tell someone they're not doing a good job, they're going to react negatively to them. And, this can create all sorts of problems. But, accountability in some ways is very much tied to emotional maturity and really accepting people for who they are, not who we want them to be, and really working with them to unlock their potential.
What are the most common barriers to creating trust in the workplace, and how can leaders overcome them?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And what I've found is that there are several barriers. So the first one is that it's assumed. So leaders think, well, I'm the leader. Of course, people trust me. But,
Mm.
trust is very much a personal perspective and everyone trusts differently. If I were to poll a room and say, who trusts the situation, the results would be all over the place. So we need to, what I find really interesting is that, we are programmed to look out at the world to see if we can trust the environment we're in. But we're not programmed to actually look within ourselves to see if we're doing the wrong thing. So when we assume trust, it actually creates a gap. And there's lots of really interesting research studies that show that senior leaders think that people trust them more than the actual employees do. And that trust gap really slow down the ability to influence, the ability to change. And you're talking past people, you're not really understanding what they need. So trust being assumed is one of the biggest issues. It's also, assuming trust is one way. So I don't trust them. They've got to do all the work to fix everything up. No. Trust is actually shared. We need to get to a point where we are talking about what needs to be done together and we're both working on it. It's not one person's responsibility, not even just the leader's responsibility. Employees also have to be responsible as well. And then, of course, it's not having a common definition of trust. What I need for trust might be very different to you. So, like for me to trust someone, I need to see them support me and care about me. Ideally, they ask me some questions and they show some interest. Just out of interest, Daniel, what would you say you need from people to trust them?
Yeah, for me, number one, being Christian.
Okay. So they have the same religious values as you.
Yes.
So, I've never had anyone say that to me before. So, and I've been doing this for a long time. So, we've got to make sure, one of the dangerous things we do is we think that people are like us and need the same thing that we do. And,
Yes.
when we do that, we can be pushing our own individual agenda and really not understanding that other person. Being able to understand and support someone and not pushing your individual agenda is so critical to building trust.
Definitely. And Miss Claire, very well said. And what role does emotional intelligence play in fostering trust and connection among team members?
Well, what I love about emotional intelligence is that emotionally intelligent people are actually high in self-awareness. And there's, when we work on our self-awareness, we also are working on our empathy. So when we understand ourselves better, we're more likely to understand other people better. So when I'm talking about self-awareness, what's really interesting about it is that very few leaders are self-aware. But unfortunately, what the research shows, and there was some research done at it's as high as like 85% of people think they're self-aware. But when you look at the data, it's probably more around, 5 to 15% on a good day. So people are lying to themselves about their ability to be self-aware. And that causes all sorts of problems. Because when we look at self-awareness, there are two aspects to it. The first one is internal self-awareness. So being aware of your strengths, your weaknesses, your trigger points, those sorts of things, and external self-awareness, being aware of how other people see you. And so what we have to do as human beings to be self-aware, you can't just being good in one of those things and not the other doesn't make you self-aware. You've actually got to bridge the gap. So you've got to be very aware of who you are, and how other people see you and how you impact others. And that's where self-awareness. And when we're good at that, then our emotional intelligence increases. I do a lot of work with students in my leadership program. And it's really interesting. I do a master class on managing emotions. And I often have quite highly emotionally intelligent people do my program, but they get themselves unstuck because they're so concerned about other people and doing the right thing by other people. But of course, you can't. If you do that, it's going to exhaust you. You've really got to balance it out, and you've got to know yourself, and you've got to put boundaries in. So, emotional management really ties into that emotional intelligence piece, and being able to manage that better, and how you react to things and how you feel about things, while honoring how you're feeling, but making sure that your actions are coming from a healthy place is really important when it comes to emotional intelligence.
So, Miss Mary Claire, what will be your advice for those people out there who want to gain trust from other people?
Yeah, good question. So the first thing, there's a few things. So number one is to become self-aware. So learn about yourself. You've actually got to trust yourself. People who don't trust others typically don't trust themselves. So you've actually got to start with yourself. And that might mean if you want other people to trust you, where are you not trusting yourself? Do you not feel confident? Do you not feel capable? Where are the gaps? What can you work on to trust yourself more? Because, people pick up on that. If they can feel that you don't trust yourself, they're not going to trust you. And of course, if we don't trust ourselves, we often become more controlling. We're controlling everyone around us because we don't trust the situation. So you want to trust yourself first. You also then, once you've got that you're working on that, you really want to work with people to understand them better, understand their perspectives. And this is where that empathy part comes in. And really the best way to do that in a workplace is, particularly if you're a leader, have one-on-ones, really good structured one-on-ones when you're totally in service of the other person. You're there to ask some questions, support them in their career, their growth. We really trust people if we can see that they care and support us. So really be there in service of them, not pushing your own agenda, not doing all the talking. An ideal ratio is they speak 90% of the time and you speak 10% of the time. And really getting to know people so that you can then really communicate to them in a way that suits them. And then the third one is really helping people understand your intention and, how you like to work and being honest with that. I like to get my leaders to, have open conversations with people about their communication styles and their work styles and what they're good at and what they're not good at, and having an open conversation about that. It's really about dialogue. It's coming to what I call shared trust, where each person understands that they're both responsible in a relationship to build trust with each other. And you've got to work it together and talk about it openly, and having that ability to have candid conversations.
Thank you for your advice, Miss Mary Claire. Thank you so much. And what will be your short-term and long-term goals in life?
Oh. Well, my short-term goals are just to do more content. So at the start of the year, I'm always putting together my blog content plan for the year and what I'm writing about, and also for social media. Long term, I do have another book sort of in the ethers, but it would be more around helping senior leadership teams. So, of course, that involves me doing more research. So it's always a long-term project. It's not something that happens overnight.
Definitely takes time. So, Miss Mary Claire, Good luck to your goals. And how can leaders rebuild trust if it has been broken within a team?
Yeah, it's really hard. I'm not going to just sugarcoat it. It takes a lot of work to turn trust around when it's broken, to repair it. So, what we want to do is make sure we're leading in a way where that doesn't happen, because it's very costly and exhausting to fix. But, one of the things that we can do, and this takes an emotionally mature leader, is to, have a one on one, a face to face session privately where you just openly discuss, this is what's happened, this is what I've done wrong, all right, I want to fix it, I want to work with you because of this, I value your opinion, I value working, give them some, positives about, working together that are true. And then, work towards fixing that and how they want to do that or what they need. And sometimes, some people will be honest and say, hey, I'm never going to trust you. That's the end of our relationship. Some people you can't build trust with. They might be high on the narcissistic scale and they can never be trusted. And others will be open to it, and you can build a relationship from there. But it really does require being, honest, really looking within yourself at what you could do better and not blaming. Because as soon as we start blaming and thinking it's all the other person's fault, people arc up on that, and you'll get nowhere.
Yes, stop blaming other people. Take responsibility. So, to wrap up our discussion today, Ms. Mary Claire, how long term impacts can leaders expect from implementing the practice outlined in Trusted to Thrive?
Yeah, there are so many. So, the impact of trust on business performance is actually really huge. So, there was a study by Imperative Research that found that high trust cultures have 2.5 times the revenue generation of low trust cultures. A study by Slack recently found that when employees feel trusted, they are 3 times more productive, have like 2.5 times more focus, and 2 times the ability to be engaged and satisfied in their work than those who don't feel trusted by their boss. So, you get a lot of really positive results, not only around revenue generation, but, people more engaged and satisfied, less turnover, higher employee engagement. One study by Deloitte found that staff are 260% more motivated. So it's a really important skill to learn. And, the impact is so much better. And, one of the things that I always get reminded of when I wrote my book, I was interviewing lots of people, and one of the CEOs said to me, when you have trust in your team, it's like this buzz, it's like this positive energy. And it's addictive. It's this hum. You all just get together, you work, you collaborate, you solve problems together, and you just look forward to it. And it's just so much more enjoyable. And, when you think about it, isn't that what we want work to be? We want to all come together and enjoy each other and solve problems together. And that's what trust does.
Definitely. Miss Mary Claire Ross, thank you so much for sharing Trusted to Thrive to the world. I'm looking forward for more empowering books like this. Can you please invite our listeners to support all your books?
Yes, thank you.
So can you please invite them, Miss Mary Claire?
Yes.
Where can they find your books?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's available on Amazon. It's probably the best one to find for all the
Yes.
people out there internationally.
Yes, where books are sold, people. Trusted to thrive. Let's support Miss Mary Claire Rose, because if you support her, as I said, more empowering books like this to come. So Miss Mary Claire, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Daniel.
More to come, people. See you soon.